Perhaps no season touches the human soul as deeply as autumn, when the first chill drifts through the window, when the golden light falls upon the damp street, and the heart quietly softens. Carl Jung once said, "The smallest of things with meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it." In that gentle cold, a single act of warmth, a greeting, a cup of tea, or even just a smile, can become the small flame that brightens an entire day. The Coziest Autumn Tale. A heartwarming day of kindness is not merely a bedtime story. It is a tender journey through souls gently awakening the kindest parts of themselves. Among houses blanketed with golden leaves, strangers quietly share warmth, like little lights forming an invisible web of kindness that connects us all. Because sometimes, what people need is not a miracle, but a simple reminder that the world is still gentle. Let tonight's story lead you back to the place where your heart can finally rest, where kindness still flows with every breath of autumn. 1. Introduction: The Power of Kindness. The evening begins with the familiar stillness of a day drawing to a close. Outside, a gentle breeze moves through the trees, carrying with it the soft chill of early autumn. Inside the small room, a warm golden light covers everything like a comforting memory. Amid that space, the calm, deep voice of Liam Hart rises, slow, steady, and resonant, like a breath. He doesn't rush to tell a story. Instead, he invites the listener to pause with him, to breathe with him. Draw in a deep, full breath, and slowly let it out again, he says, his voice blending with the soft background music that sounds like distant rain. A quiet moment follows, and in that silence, he speaks about kindness, a force that may seem small, yet carries a power stronger than any sermon. He says that every act of kindness, no matter how small, is like lighting a candle in someone's soul, and that light, in some mysterious way, finds its way back to illuminate our own hearts. Perhaps, if Carl Jung were in the room, he would smile, because what Liam speaks of is what Jung once wrote in Psychological Reflections. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. When two human beings meet, not through words, but through compassion, both are changed, like two catalysts discovering each other in the alchemy of life. Liam talks about simple things: a stranger's smile on a bad day, a driver giving way on a crowded street, a friend sending a message just to ask, "Are you okay?" These small gestures, he says, are the dominoes of kindness, a chain reaction that keeps unfolding with no one knowing where it began or where it will end. They spread quietly, like breath, yet endure like light. As he speaks, something stirs within us, an ancient, deeply human memory. Perhaps it's the time someone helped us when we were lost, or the moment we held someone's hand just to whisper, "It's going to be all right." Kindness, Liam reminds us, is not a single act. It is the deepest language of the soul. Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." Perhaps when Liam invites us to look at those moments of kindness, he is guiding us inward, to the realm where kindness becomes a symbol of light, confronting the shadows within. For no light can exist without first touching darkness. No one can truly be kind who has not known loneliness or the harsh edges of life. Liam speaks of kindness not as a moral command but as a spiritual journey. His voice is gentle, yet carries a quiet strength, as if he's retelling a story we've always known but somehow forgotten. He says, "Each day you have the power to make the world a little softer, not through grand gestures, but through your very presence." And we realize kindness is not weakness, but a form of silent power. Jung once wrote in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, "The lack of meaning in life is a soul sickness whose full extent and import our age has not yet begun to comprehend. The modern world is not suffering from a lack of success, but from a lack of meaning, and it is kindness the empathetic gaze, the listening gesture that reconnects wandering souls amid the noise of our age. When Liam speaks about each person being a mirror of positive reflection, that image echoes a familiar Jungian archetype, the caregiver, the symbol of nurture and compassion. Yet behind every caregiver lies a paradox. One can only nurture others after having learned to heal oneself. Thus, kindness is not only an act of giving, it is an act of deep self-healing. The story unfolds like a ritual, not just inviting us to relax, but leading us into a meditative state where we see the world within more clearly. The music flows with the rhythm of breath, and all sounds slow down. In that stillness, the listener begins to feel warmth, not because someone is teaching about kindness, but because they are experiencing it. A picture of small, tender moments forms in the mind. A woman opening her window to breathe in the morning air, a neighbor lending a hand, an old man smiling as he is given a turn. Everything begins with a breath, with a small intention, with the moment Liam says, "Breathe in," and gently out. From there, the story becomes a living symbol. In Jung's language, it is the process of individuation, the journey toward wholeness. For when we choose kindness, we are not only healing the outer world, we are also healing the darkness within ourselves. Through his warm, grounding narration, Liam Hart turns kindness into a ritual of awakening. He needs no complex philosophy. He simply reminds us that even in a wounded world, there's still room for gentleness. In that space, people are no longer isolated beings, but souls connected through the invisible light of compassion. And when he pauses, leaving silence after his final words, we hear something faint. Perhaps our own sigh, or the soft beat of a heart. We understand then that kindness is not merely an action, but a choice. The choice to remember that we are still human. That night, as the music fades, the listeners do not only feel relaxed, they feel redeemed. As though, amid the darkness of the modern world, someone has lit a candle, inviting us closer, whispering, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Carl Gustav Jung. And perhaps the journey toward becoming ourselves always begins with the simplest act of all, choosing kindness. 2. Apartment 3A, The Initiator. That morning, the city was bathed in the pale gold of early autumn. The sunlight hung thin as silk over the leaves outside the window, where the first few had begun to change color. Inside the small apartment 3A, Claire and Yen awoke. The room was silent, filled only with the soft whistle of a kettle and the faint aroma of tea floating in the air. She stood up, gently drew back the curtain, and opened the window wide. The cool morning breeze rushed in, carrying with it the damp scent of dry grass, brushing against her skin like a quiet greeting. She closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. It was more than just a breath. It was a ritual of beginning, a threshold between what was old and what was new. Something in the air that morning felt different, as if autumn itself were whispering to her about something far deeper than weather, about awakening. On the chair lay her old wool sweater, the one she had tucked away all summer. She smiled and slipped it over her shoulders. The fabric was soft, slightly worn, and there was a small tear on the sleeve that only she knew about. Yet that imperfection made her love it more. In its worn texture lived the memories of many passing seasons, of all the autumns she had endured, stitching herself back together each time with tenderness and patience. Pulling the collar close to her neck, Clara felt as though she were wrapping herself in her truest being. Imperfect, yet warm and profoundly real. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Perhaps Clara had never read Jung, but in an unconscious way, she was living that very truth. By choosing to wear the old sweater again, Clara was doing something most of us forget, facing and accepting herself, not as who she wished to be, but as who she truly was. Outside, the city was still quiet. Clara poured a cup of tea and sat by the table, letting the thin steam rise to warm her nose. The fragrance spread gently, carrying a silent thought. Every beginning requires stillness. When she lifted the cup and gazed out the window, the light reflected in her eyes, forming a small flicker of gold, a flame just awakening. In the inner world, that light is the symbol of consciousness emerging from the unconscious. Jung called it the birth of light within the darkness. A person truly changes only when the light of awareness illuminates the shadow of the soul. For Clara, that light arrived quietly, through the simple joy of being alive. She stood and looked into the mirror by the door. A plain face stared back, but the eyes glowed with serenity. She wore no lipstick, made no attempt to fix her hair. She simply smiled. It was a timid smile, yet genuine, as if she were learning to speak to herself again. In the reflection stood a woman who had endured lonely days and silent nights, and now she was beginning a dialogue with her own soul. Jung once wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." That morning, Clara sought nothing outside herself. She simply listened to her breath, to the wind, and realized she was still here, whole, a little weary perhaps, but still capable of feeling. And in that exact moment, she began to awaken. She wrapped a scarf around her neck, picked up her old canvas bag, and headed for the door. As she turned the key, her hand paused for a brief second, as though saying goodbye to her little sanctuary. "See you later," she whispered. A small phrase, yet it carried a subtle movement of the soul. She wasn't leaving her apartment. She was leaving her confinement. In the hallway, dim light streamed through a small window, falling into long stripes across the floor. Her footsteps echoed softly on the stairs, steady as a heartbeat. Each step, each beat felt like a gentle ritual, stepping away from safety, moving toward the world. In that instant, she didn't know that this simple act, opening a door and stepping outside, would begin a chain reaction of kindness that would ripple throughout the day. From afar came the rustle of leaves, a dog's bark, and someone's laughter drifting up from the street. The whole city seemed to be waking with her, and perhaps, on a deeper, invisible plane of the soul, a door was opening there too. Jung once wrote in, "Memories, dreams, reflections. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. There is no awakening without first passing through darkness." Clara did not know this intellectually, but her heart understood. She had walked through loneliness, through the ache of days when no one seemed to understand, through the exhaustion of nights without a voice. And now, this autumn morning, with tea, with her old sweater, and with breath, stood as proof of her transformation, from silence to life, from shadow to light. When she stepped out of the building, the gentle sunlight embraced her. The street looked like a freshly painted canvas. Few cars, trees trembling softly in the wind, the faint sweetness of cinnamon in the air. Clara smiled, walking through the golden light, her heart lightened as if cleansed. She did not yet know that just a few minutes later, on the staircase, she would meet her neighbor from apartment 2A, struggling with a large box, and that in offering a simple helping hand, she would set into motion the very domino of kindness Liam Hart had spoken of in the introduction. But for now, she didn't need to know. All she had to do was walk through that early autumn morning as an unconscious initiator of light. Every journey begins with a breath, a step, or a small gesture. For Clara Nguyen, that journey began in apartment 3A, when she opened the window and let the light in. And in that same moment, the light within her awakened too. 3. The encounter on the staircase. The staircase of the small building on Maple Street was filled that morning with the soft light of early autumn. Sunbeams filtered through the window glass, falling in long streaks across the old railing, touching each step like a gentle stream connecting separate worlds, where people lived side by side, yet rarely truly met. Clara Nguyen descended from the third floor, Her hand brushed lightly along the cold handrail, her eyes still carrying the calm of a quiet morning. Warm tea and the first breath of seasonal chill. She felt lighter inside, as if by opening her window and stepping out, she had opened another door within her own soul. But at the turn of the stairs, a small sound arose. A figure appeared. Eva Tran, her neighbor from apartment 2A, struggling with a box so large it nearly covered her face. They almost collided. Clara startled, then laughed. Eva laughed too, her breath mingling with the cool air. "Oh, I'm so sorry. This box is bigger than I thought," Eva gasped between laughter. Clara tilted her head, her eyes warm. "Let me give you a hand." She stepped forward and gently took one end of the box. It was heavy, but Clara didn't mind. Two women, one from the third floor, one from the second, slowly made their way down together. Their footsteps echoed softly in the narrow space, blending with the creaks of the old wooden stairs, sounding almost like a familiar melody. The melody of connection. Through the small window where sunlight poured in, Eva's face became clear, younger than Clara's, bright-eyed yet slightly uncertain. And in that moment, Clara felt something soften within her. She was no longer the withdrawn woman from apartment 3A. She was stepping into another person's world, even if only through a simple act. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." And indeed, in that moment, both were changed, though neither realized it. Between the worn staircase and the morning air, an invisible reaction occurred. One woman's kindness dissolved the other's guardedness. When they reached the ground floor, they set the box down. Eva exhaled in relief, smiling, her messy hair catching the light from the open doorway. "Thank you. I'm so lucky you were here." Clara shook her head softly. "It's nothing. I was just passing by." They both laughed. A simple laugh, yet their eyes spoke volumes. The sunlight spilled across their faces, painting them in a gentle gold. In that brief instant, Clara suddenly realized that sometimes encounters that seem random are orchestrated by a subtle order of the universe. What Jung called synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence. Perhaps the small kindness she had just shared, the warmth exchanged, was the first link in an endless chain of human connection waiting to unfold. She watched Eva push the box into the trunk of her car. For a moment, Clara saw a reflection of her younger self, once struggling with invisible boxes of her own, responsibilities, expectations, loneliness. Perhaps that was why she understood so deeply. And in helping Eva, she was not only lifting a box, she was lifting the fragile part of herself. The staircase, where their meeting took place, suddenly became a symbol. It connected floors, just as it connected levels of consciousness. Clara's descent from the third floor to the first mirrored her movement from the closed world of her inner life to the living, breathing world outside. She had stepped out of the house inside her mind into the house of humanity, and in between, on the landing where their paths crossed, was where the miracle happened. Two people meeting, seeing each other, and smiling. When Eva closed the trunk and waved goodbye, Clara returned the gesture with a soft nod. No more words were needed. Between them, a new language had been written, the language of empathy, the quiet understanding of human hearts. Jung once wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "The small things of life were often so much greater than the great things, and the triviality of life was never trivial. Indeed, a small act, a smile, a look of compassion, sometimes they ignite the awakening of the spirit." Clara did not help to be thanked. She helped because in that instant her heart simply said, "This is right." And in a chaotic world, when someone still listens to that voice, it means the light has not gone out. She stood by the doorway for a moment, watching Eva drive away until the car disappeared around the corner. The morning sun spread a warm light across her face, and the wind gently brushed her hair, as if whispering, "See, the world is still kind." Clara turned back and climbed a few steps, her heart strangely open. That staircase, which she had crossed countless times without noticing, now carried new meaning. It connected not just floors, but souls. She did not know that this simple act, a fleeting moment on an autumn morning, would become the first link in a chain of kindness, rippling from one person to another like gentle waves across still water. But Clara didn't need to know. All she knew was that today, the world felt closer, and her heart, after so many silent days, had begun to beat again to the rhythm of compassion. And there, in the quiet light of the stairwell, Clara smiled. A peaceful smile, as if she had just climbed one more step on her journey back to herself. The early autumn sunlight filtered softly through the golden leaves, scattering thin rays across the car window. Eva Tran sat behind the wheel, her breath still steady after the morning encounter. She had just closed the trunk, waved to Clara with a warm smile, and started the engine. The quiet hum of the motor sounded steady, like a heartbeat finding balance again. As she drove away from Maple Street, she still felt something stir inside her. A small, spreading joy. Not the joy of being helped, but the feeling of having glimpsed a gentle light in another person, and sensing that same light begin to glow within herself. The autumn breeze slipped through the crack of the window. The scent of dry grass, fallen leaves, and damp earth mingled together, reminding her of a line she once read: "What you touch, touches you." When Clara helped her, it wasn't just the box that was lifted. Eva herself was lifted. And now, she felt a quiet desire to pass that feeling on to someone else, even in the smallest way. The street leading to the central post office gleamed in the morning sun. Trees on both sides were beginning to shed their leaves, and the damp pavement reflected the light like a mirror. Eva drove slowly, keeping a safe distance from the car ahead, her eyes attentive to each passerby. A woman crossing the road with her child, a student clutching his notebooks, an elderly man waiting at the crosswalk. She yielded gently to each, smiling at the small, fleeting moments of life unfolding around her. In her mind, Eva recalled Clara's image that morning. Brown hair tied neatly, an old sweater slightly worn, and a smile as soft as dawn. An ordinary woman, yet within that simplicity lay something serene. Someone who knew how to live slowly, how to see deeply. Perhaps that was what made Eva want to be kinder, not to do something grand, but to return to the goodness already within her. At the post office, Eva parked neatly by the curb. She lifted the cardboard box from the trunk, balancing it carefully as she pushed open the heavy glass door. Inside, the air smelled faintly of paper, ink, and old wood. A short line of people waited patiently. She stood second in line. In front of her was an elderly man, silver-haired, thin, holding a small envelope. His eyes were gentle but distant, slightly lost. Eva noticed something profoundly human in his presence. Vulnerability, slowness, and that quiet solitude we often glimpse in aging faces in the city. The man smiled faintly when their eyes met. She smiled back, and when the clerk called, "Next," Eva said softly, "Please, you go ahead. I still have a few forms to fill out." The man looked surprised, hesitated, then nodded gratefully. "Thank you, but you were here first." Eva shook her head, smiling. "It's okay. I can wait." So he stepped forward to the counter, his shoulders trembling slightly, but his walk lighter than before. And Eva, standing behind him, felt a quiet warmth fill her chest. A small thing, yet she knew. It was right. Carl Jung once wrote, "A small act of kindness can release a tremendous power because it awakens what is best in the human soul." Eva wasn't thinking of philosophy when she acted, but unconsciously, she had touched that healing energy Jung spoke of. A kindness that not only helps others but restores one's own luminous soul. The elderly man, Arthur Bennett, must have felt it too. When he left the counter, he turned and nodded at her, his smile as gentle as late autumn sunlight. Eva smiled back. In his eyes she saw gratitude, but more than that, a spark of life, as though her simple gesture had reminded him that the world still held kindness. Arthur left the post office. Eva stepped forward to the counter. Her transaction took longer, but her heart remained light. When she stepped outside, she saw the silver-haired man walking slowly across the street, holding the letter he had just mailed. He stopped by a small cafe on the corner, where sunlight poured through the window onto brown wooden chairs. Eva smiled. She didn't know that soon he would buy a warm cup of coffee and offer it to a young man with a dog waiting outside, and that the domino of kindness Liam Hart had spoken of earlier would truly begin from there. All she knew was that this morning, life felt just a little more beautiful. On her way home, Eva rolled down the window. The early autumn wind carried the scent of dry leaves through her hair. The city was the same, still filled with hurried faces, yet everything seemed bathed in a softer light. She understood something simple but true. Kindness is not an obligation, but a natural wave of the soul when we remember we belong to the world. Carl Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "The world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, the world will tell you." And perhaps in that moment when she let the old man go ahead, Eva had found her own answer. She no longer needed the world to define her, because she had seen herself reflected in the smile of a stranger. The afternoon light began to fade, leaves drifting slowly through her view. Eva slowed at a red light, the golden glow reflected on her face. A little boy in the car beside her waved. She waved back, her smile glowing like a small lantern in the dusk. She did not know that, just around the corner, Arthur Bennett was stirring milk into his coffee, smiling softly. And moments later, he would carry that cup outside, offering it to a young man and his dog waiting by the door. Kindness continued to move, like rays of light connecting distant souls, from one hand to another, from one gaze to the next. And in that moment, Eva understood that everything born of a seemingly meaningless gesture can become a sacred ritual of connection. Like Clara above, who had unknowingly begun the flow, she too was continuing it in her own way. No one would know, no one would record it. Yet somewhere deeper, within what Jung called the collective unconscious, a current had begun to move. The energy of light flowing through those who still knew how to smile. And so, as Eva's car turned off the street, the sun leaned fully west, casting its last golden light across her mirror. Another day had passed. Nothing extraordinary, only a series of small acts. But it is precisely these small acts through which the human soul remembers who it truly is. As Jung once wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Eva did not know that, as she drove home, a beautiful chain of dreams was beginning, where kindness quietly bound unfamiliar hearts into a single circle of light. 5. Arthur. The cup of coffee and the small gift. That afternoon, the sky was draped in a pale golden hue, like the silk scarf of autumn. Arthur Bennett, the silver-haired gentleman who had just mailed a letter at the post office, walked slowly along the old cobblestone street. His hands rested deep in his coat pockets, and within him was a lightness, the quiet contentment of someone who has done a kind deed no matter how small. The soft chime of a bell rang from the cafe on the corner, the Maple Corner, the place he visited every afternoon. It was a haven where the scent of coffee, the clinking of spoons, and the warm amber light seemed to dissolve all loneliness. Arthur pushed open the door, and the bell above it jingled like a familiar greeting. Behind the counter, Nora Fields, the barista with neatly tied hair, looked up and smiled. "Good afternoon, Arthur." "The usual." He chuckled, his voice rough yet warm. "Not today, Nora. I think I'll go rogue." They both laughed. Nora knew immediately. He wanted to try something new. And so, instead of his usual Americano, Arthur ordered a pumpkin latte, the special drink of the season. A small change, a new flavor, as if he were reminding himself that life still had room for sweetness. While Nora prepared the drink, Arthur stood by the window, gazing outside. The sunlight of late afternoon spilled over the sidewalk, and there he saw a young man sitting on a wooden bench with a large gray-black dog. The dog lifted its head, eyes bright, watching every passerby, while the young man smiled and stroked its fur affectionately. The sight made Arthur smile. He didn't know why, but something warm stirred inside him, as though he was witnessing a small fragment of unconditional love. Perhaps he saw in that young man a reflection of himself long ago, hopeful, trusting, still believing in the kindness of the world. Carl Jung once wrote, "At times, I feel as if I am spread out over the landscape and inside things, and am myself living in every tree, in the plashing of the waves, in the clouds, and the animals that come and go." And in that moment, Arthur felt exactly that. He felt himself everywhere, in the soft breeze, in the scent of coffee filling the air, and in the shining eyes of the dog outside. When Nora placed the steaming cup on the counter, Arthur looked at her and asked, "Do you still have those little frozen desserts for dogs? Pup cups, right?" Nora raised an eyebrow, grinning. "Arthur, are you finally planning to get yourself a dog?" He laughed. No. I just saw a good girl outside who looks like she deserves one." Curious, Nora leaned to peek outside, then smiled. "Ah, that's Scotty. She and her owner come by sometimes. Sweetest pair you'll ever meet." She opened the small freezer, took out a tiny cup of ice cream, and handed it to him. "Here you go, on the house." Arthur shook his head and dropped a few coins into the tip jar. "Then, let's make it a shared kindness." Holding his latte in one hand and the little pup cup in the other, Arthur pushed open the cafe door. The chill of the autumn breeze brushed his skin, and the afternoon light fell softly on his shoulders like a blanket. The young man looked up as Arthur approached, and the dog perked its ears, eyes sparkling. Arthur smiled. "Excuse me, young man. May I offer your companion a treat?" The young man looked surprised, then broke into a radiant grin. "Oh, that's so kind of you, sir. She'll love that." Arthur handed him the small cup, and the dog immediately lowered its head, licking happily, its tail wagging furiously, as if the whole world had just given it a gift. "She's beautiful," Arthur said gently. "A husky." "Close," the young man replied, his eyes bright. "She's a Norwegian elk hound. Her name's Skadi, named after a Norse goddess of winter." Arthur chuckled softly, his voice merging with the wind. "A goddess indeed, and she's got the heart of one, too." In the golden afternoon light, three beings, an old man, a young man, and a dog, stood together sharing a moment both simple and profound. No philosophy was spoken, no purpose was needed. There was only presence, pure, sincere, what Jung would call a numinous moment, a sacred instant when the human soul awakens to the divine within the ordinary. The young man, Leo Park, looked at Arthur with gratitude. "You just made her day," Leo said with a soft laugh. Arthur replied, "Maybe she made mine first." They both laughed. A gentle breeze swept through, carrying the scent of coffee, leaves, and damp earth. In that moment, kindness moved, not just from one person to another, but from one soul to another. Arthur returned to the cafe and sat in the armchair by the window. Nora glanced at him, her eyes touched with emotion. "You've made another friend, haven't you?" He took a sip of his warm coffee, the taste of cinnamon spreading on his tongue, and said softly, "Kindness spreads faster than people think, Nora." Nora smiled, saying nothing. She simply looked at him through the gentle curl of steam rising from his cup, and saw in his eyes a rare peace, the peace of someone who has learned to give without reason. Carl Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Arthur understood this. He didn't do kind things to feel good. He did them because they were right, because kindness is the light we kindle within the world's darkness. As he rose to leave, the sunset had painted the street in hues of bronze. Through the cafe window, he looked back and saw the young man and his dog still there. Leo was smiling. Scotty was licking her lips after the sweet treat. It was a tender, ordinary scene. Yet for Arthur, it was proof that goodness still existed, still alive, and moving quietly through the world. He pulled his scarf closer around his neck and walked slowly down the leaf-strewn street. Each step, each breath, felt light as mist. He didn't know that only a few minutes later, that same young man, Leo, would do something kind for another stranger, continuing the circle of compassion, rippling outward, silent but steady like the fading autumn light on the rooftops. And so, in that peaceful afternoon, amid the wind and the scent of coffee, Arthur realized something profound. Every soul is connected by invisible threads of kindness. A gesture, a glance, a small gift to a dog. Sometimes these are how the universe heals itself. And as he disappeared at the end of the street, the cafe bell chimed once more, ringing out like an unseen message in the air. Kindness, once awakened, never falls back asleep. 6. Leo and Scotty, returning the hat. The afternoon settled softly over the small town. The last light of day broke into gentle golden fragments, shimmering across the stone-paved street. Leo Park sat on the wooden bench outside the cafe, the faint scent of cinnamon still rising from his cup of coffee. Beside him, Scotty, his gray-black dog, lay curled up, her eyes half closed, occasionally licking the tip of her nose, where a little bit of cream lingered from the treat that old Arthur Bennett had given her earlier. Both of them seemed to linger in that moment's afterglow. A brief, vivid instant. A stranger, a small cup of ice cream for a dog, and a smile. That was all, yet somehow the world had become gentler. Leo took a sip of coffee, exhaled, feeling the first cool breeze of autumn seep into his chest, crisp and pure. He smiled, remembering Arthur's kind eyes, the look of someone who understands that sometimes kindness needs no reason, only presence. Scotty's ears perked up. She stood, looking across the street, then barked softly. Leo followed her gaze and immediately saw why. A young woman was pushing a stroller. The wind brushed through her light brown hair, and inside the stroller, a baby was giggling, holding a small plush toy. The scene looked like a living painting, and Leo felt something tender stir within him. Then he noticed a small object fall from the stroller. A pink knit hat with bear ears, rolling gently across the sidewalk before resting near a lamppost. "Good eyes, girl," he murmured, patting Scotty's head. The dog barked again, tail wagging lightly, as if signaling him to act. Leo set his coffee down and walked quickly toward the hat. As he picked it up, he saw that a little stuffed bunny had also slipped out from under the blanket. Holding both, he called out, "Ma'am, excuse me, you dropped these." The woman turned. Sunlight touched her cheek, softening the tired face of a young mother. Sophie Kim, her name was. She was pushing the stroller while trying to soothe Milo, her baby, who laughed and waved his hands as if the game of throwing things away was the best fun in the world. Leo jogged over, slightly out of breath, and held out the hat and bunny. "I think these belong to him." Sophie laughed. A real laugh, weary yet full of gratitude. "Oh my goodness, thank you. He's been throwing everything out lately. I can't keep up." Leo leaned down to look at Milo. The child's round eyes peeked out from under the blanket, staring at him, and Scotty as if discovering magic. He laughed, reaching out his tiny hand toward the dog. Scotty lowered her head, letting him touch her nose, gentle and calm as sunlight itself. Sophie laughed again and turned to Leo. "You've made his day, and mine too." Leo shook his head. I just picked it up. She was the one who saw it first. He pointed to Scotty. Sophie crouched down, patting the dog's head. Well then, thank you, Scotty. You're a good girl. Scotty sniffed her hand, then lifted her gaze, her eyes shimmering as if smiling. The moment lasted only a few minutes, yet something about it felt extraordinary. A stranger, a mother, a child, and a dog. 4 beings standing in the golden light, sharing the same breath, the same vibration of life. Jung once called such moments synchronicity, meaningful coincidences where souls meet not by chance, but because the universe wants to send a message about connection. Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. Carl Jung Leo didn't know Jung's theory, but he felt it, as if an invisible thread had linked him to this woman, and to the old man who had given Scotty her ice cream earlier. A domino effect of kindness was quietly continuing, unseen yet unbroken. As Sophie placed the hat back on Milo's head, she sighed, not from exhaustion this time, but from relief. Sometimes I think I'm just barely holding it together, she said softly. But then something like this happens, and it reminds me that the world isn't as harsh as it feels. Leo smiled, his eyes warm. Maybe the world isn't kind or cruel. Maybe it just reflects what we bring to it. His words made Sophie pause, then nod. A simple statement, yet it touched the deepest place in her soul, the place where faith and kindness still lived, even if forgotten beneath the noise of daily struggle. Milo laughed again, his tiny hand patting Scotty's back. She nestled closer, her ears folding gently in affection. Sophie chuckled, and Leo joined her. Their laughter mingled with the breeze, drifting down the street, light, pure, as though the world had just been cleansed once more. When Sophie finally pushed the stroller away, she turned and smiled. A smile like the last glimmer of daylight. Leo watched until they disappeared behind the trees. He bent down, patting Scotty's head. You did good today. The dog licked his hand, then curled up at his feet, tail wagging softly. Leo sat quietly, a warmth spreading inside him, something he couldn't put into words. Perhaps, as Jung once said, the meeting of 2 personalities is like the contact of 2 chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Every encounter, however brief, leaves an invisible glow within the soul. Arthur had touched him. He had touched Sophie, and Sophie would soon touch someone else. Kindness kept moving forward. A flame passed from hand to hand, small yet never extinguished. As dusk deepened, Leo and Scotty continued down the street. Golden leaves fell around them, light as the breath of time. Far ahead, the sky was turning violet, and the streetlights flickered to life one by one. Leo felt full, not because he had done anything grand, but because he knew he was exactly where he needed to be, in the unseen current of goodness. He didn't yet know that only minutes later, that same woman, Sophie Kim, would stop beside an expiring parking meter, quietly drop a few coins inside, and walk away without thinking why. Only because she felt the gentle urge to pass the goodness along, and so the flow of kindness continued. Leo looked up at the sky, where streaks of cloud glowed pink and gold. He thought of everything that had happened that day, of Arthur, of the young woman, the baby, and of Scotty, and whispered into the wind, maybe kindness is just the soul remembering who it really is. Scotty lifted her head, her eyes reflecting the first streetlight of the evening. She barked once, low and warm, as if in agreement, and in that sound, the whole town seemed to pause for a moment, listening to the quiet voice of compassion itself. And so, as night gently descended, through streets scattered with leaves and shimmering lights, the journey of kindness went on, not loud, not proud, but quietly moving from one heart to another, like a tender melody echoing forever through the dark. 7. Sophie, the secret by the parking meter. The sun had leaned fully westward, its soft golden light draping over the cobblestone streets, clothing the little town in the gentle fabric of autumn. Sophie Kim pushed the stroller slowly, the sound of its wheels clacking against the stones blended with the whisper of falling leaves. Inside, baby Milo slept peacefully, his long lashes trembling as if he were still dreaming of something joyful. After her encounter with Leo and his dog Scotty, Sophie felt lighter. She still remembered Leo's kind, steady eyes and the way he had said, "Kindness doesn't end where it's given." That phrase kept echoing in her mind like a soft call from afar, awakening something deep within her, a feeling both tender and strong, as if she had just been reconnected with the gentleness that had long been asleep in her own soul. The street was quiet, filled only with the scent of baked bread and coffee drifting from a nearby shop. A cool breeze sent red leaves swirling down around the stroller, settling gently on Milo's small blanket. Sophie smiled as she pulled it up to his chin. "Sleep well, my little one," she whispered. When she looked up again, her eyes stopped on a car parked by the curb. Beside it, a parking meter blinked red, only a few minutes left before the time would expire. She glanced around. No one seemed to be coming back. Then a familiar feeling stirred in her, a quiet, undeniable impulse. She remembered that morning when Leo had run after her to return Milo's tiny hat. The warmth of that moment still lingered. Now, it was as if a gentle voice within whispered, "Now it's your turn to pass it on." Sophie opened her bag and searched for a few coins left from her morning coffee. She crouched down beside the stroller, looked at her sleeping baby, and whispered as though sharing a secret, "Milo, today we're going to do something very small, but it might make someone smile." One by one, she dropped the coins into the meter. Each one made a soft ting as it fell. The digital screen blinked, then turned green. An extra hour added. Sophie looked at the number and smiled. Just a small act, yet warmth spread quietly through her chest. Carl Jung once wrote, "The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it." Yes, she thought. Meaning isn't measured by how much we do, but by how much heart we place in it. In that moment, Sophie felt as though she and the world were one. No divide between giver and receiver, only a soft tenderness flowing through the cool autumn air. A voice called from down the street. She looked up to see Officer Delaney, the parking officer, walking his route. He was jotting notes in his pad, heading directly toward the car. Sophie's heart fluttered for a second, but when his eyes met the meter's glowing green light, he simply raised an eyebrow, smiled faintly, and moved on. It was such a small moment, but it made Sophie laugh quietly. Perhaps kindness was like the wind, invisible, yet everyone could feel its passing. She leaned toward the stroller and whispered, "See, Milo, our secret is safe. No one knows, only the autumn breeze." The baby stirred, a faint smile curving his lips, as if he had heard the story in his dreams. Sophie kept walking. Each step felt light, as if the ground itself was woven from gratitude. She realized that what brought her joy wasn't being thanked, but feeling that she was part of something larger, a current of goodness flowing through strangers' lives and now touching her own heart. Carl Jung once said in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order." Sophie thought, perhaps kindness is like that too. A secret order binding souls together, quietly holding the world in balance so it does not fall apart. She passed under the shade of a tall tree and stopped. A woman was hurrying toward the same parked car, Helena Brooks, just finishing her yoga class. Helena glanced at the meter, saw the time remaining, and her face lit up with relief. She looked up at the sky and smiled, the radiant smile of someone who has just received an invisible gift. Sophie stood at a distance, quietly observing. She didn't need to be seen. She simply smiled. The smile of someone who had just witnessed her kindness bloom before her eyes. She leaned over the stroller and whispered, "You know, Milo, this will be our secret. The secret of kindness." The wind picked up, spinning golden leaves around them. The first streetlight flickered on, its reflection shimmering on the damp pavement like a dream. Sophie felt her eyes moisten, not from sadness, but from pure gratitude for being alive. Carl Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." She thought, perhaps kindness is how the human spirit awakens from the dream of separateness, the illusion that we are apart from the world. When she slipped those coins into the meter, she hadn't just saved a stranger from a parking ticket. She had reconnected herself to humanity. On the way home, night began to descend. Sophie felt a small flame burning in her chest, not bright, not loud, but warm enough to illuminate the deepest part of her being, the place Jung called the self, the spiritual center from which all goodness arises. As she turned the corner, the stroller rolled gently over dry leaves, their soft rustle echoing behind her. Milo still slept, his lips curved in a peaceful smile. Sophie looked at him and said softly, "One day, you'll understand, Milo, that sometimes the kindest things we do are the ones no one ever sees." And so, beneath the violet sky of an autumn evening, mother and child continued their walk, carrying their secret. A small one, but warm enough to touch the whole world. Behind them, Helena started her car, her heart light. Ahead, Officer Delaney continued his rounds, whistling a cheerful tune. No one knew what had just happened, yet somewhere, within the heartbeat of the little town, the light of kindness kept spreading, quiet, steady, and never fading. 8. The car owner returns. The invisible gift, the autumn wind, had grown colder as Sophie Kim pushed the stroller away from the quiet street. Behind her, the parking meter still glowed green, a silent witness to the little secret of kindness she and baby Milo had just shared. She didn't look back. She simply smiled, knowing that true goodness doesn't need to be seen. And just then, at the end of the street, Helena Brooks stepped out of the yoga studio, the owner of that car. She had just finished her evening class, a rolled-up blue mat in hand, the faint scent of lavender still clinging to her clothes. The air outside was fresher than she expected. Maple leaves fell softly at her feet, and the sunset bathed the street in golden honey light. Helena inhaled deeply, feeling the cool air touch her lungs. On evenings like this, she usually went straight home, lit a candle, brewed chamomile tea. But tonight felt different, as though a quiet peace had settled into her very breath. She walked toward her car parked by the curb, where the streetlight shimmered faintly on the windshield. Intending to drop in a few coins to extend her parking time, she opened her wallet, then paused. The meter's light was still green. Helena blinked. She looked closer. The timer showed 1 extra hour. A slow smile spread across her lips, gentle as the breeze. "Strange," she whispered. "I could have sworn it was about to expire." She stood there, for a moment, the wind moving through her hair, carrying the scent of resin and fallen leaves. A warm, wordless feeling rose within her. Someone, a stranger, had paid for her parking. No reason, no signature, just a quiet gesture. Yet it felt as if the world itself had just greeted her with kindness. Carl Jung once wrote, "Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see." Helena had never studied Jung, but she could feel what he meant. Life was not always a chain of coincidences. It was a web of souls, quietly touching each other like stars, connected by invisible light. A stranger, maybe a young mother, maybe just someone passing by, had chosen to give without being seen, and now Helena was the one being touched by that invisible kindness. She opened the car door, placed her yoga mat on the back seat, but didn't get in. Sitting for a while behind the wheel, her hands resting lightly on it, she noticed how the city's sounds seemed to slow down. The soft rustle of leaves, the wind whispering through branches, all blending into a gentle harmony. In that moment, she didn't feel like a lucky recipient, but rather a link in something much larger, a subtle current of connection flowing through human lives, a circle of kindness that had begun somewhere beyond her knowing. She smiled, placed her hand over her heart, and whispered, "Thank you, whoever you are." Driving home, her window slightly open, the autumn wind played with her hair. The jazz tune on the radio faded into the background. Her mind was elsewhere, in the quiet space where her heart had just been touched by an unseen hand. Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Perhaps, Helena thought, you don't even need to meet for such a reaction to occur. A coin, a smile, a small act, that's enough to change two souls, even if they never know each other's names. When her car passed the park, Helena slowed down. Children were playing on the grass, couples sat on benches, and an old man scattered crumbs for the pigeons. The scene made her smile. She thought of all the years she'd lived in a rush, all the days spent chasing schedules, forgetting to look up at the sky. And now, through a stranger's small act, she felt as if she'd been invited to pause, to see the world again, not with her eyes, but with her heart. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Carl Jung. Yes, she thought, a few coins, worthless in measure, had carried meaning no gift could match. By the time the streetlights flickered on, their glow reflected softly against her windshield. Helena rolled the window down, letting the chill brush her fingers. She could feel life flowing around her, not loudly, but steadily, persistently. And then a small thought bloomed in her chest. Tomorrow, I'll do the same. Maybe she'd buy someone a cup of coffee, help a stranger carry their bag, or simply smile at a tired cashier. One act, that's all it would take to keep this invisible current alive, the current she had just received. She chuckled, shaking her head. Funny how kindness spreads, she thought. It's like catching sunlight. The moment it touches you, you want to pass it on. At a red light, the wind carried the faint scent of wood and rain. Helena glanced to her right and saw a man getting out of his car, seemingly unaware that he'd left a takeout bag on the roof. She waved quickly to get his attention. He looked up, laughed in surprise, and thanked her, nodding gratefully before retrieving the bag. Helena smiled back, her heart catching that familiar warmth again, the feeling of continuation. When the light turned green, she drove on, the autumn breeze fluttering her scarf. A deep calm filled her chest, a peace that didn't come from yoga or music, but from being part of something quietly transforming the world. Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "What you do for others, you do for yourself." Helena didn't know the name of the person who had helped her, and the man she just signaled would never know hers. But that didn't matter. In the flow of kindness, names dissolve, and only light remains. Down the golden street of one of the last sunsets of the year, Helena drove with her window open, listening to the rustle of leaves whispering secrets to the wind. The day was ending, but inside her, something had opened, as if someone had lit a small candle, and so the chain of kindness continued, from one person to another, from one corner to the next, and quiet, compassionate, alive. And Helena, wrapped in the soft breath of autumn, simply smiled, because she understood now Some gifts need no name, no return. They fulfill their purpose the very moment they make a heart smile. 9. A gentle signal at the intersection. The sky had turned amber as Helena Brooks left the yoga center. The early autumn breeze drifted by, carrying the scent of sap and dry leaves mixed with a faint aroma of coffee from a small corner cafe. She opened her car door, slid into the driver's seat, her heart still light with quiet joy. The joy born of an invisible gift she had just received. Someone, a stranger, had silently dropped coins into her parking meter. That simple act made the world seem a little softer, as if, even in this hurried modern life, invisible threads of kindness still wove between people, delicate yet unbreakable. Carl Jung once said, "Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see." Helena smiled. Yes, there are things that appear to be coincidences but are, in truth, the flow of kindness, finding its way. The car rolled slowly through streets carpeted with golden leaves. Helena drove in silence, the radio playing softly, a gentle stream of jazz blending with the breath of the evening. She didn't know when her lips had curved into a smile. She only felt her heart grow lighter, as though she had brushed against something pure. At an intersection, the light turned red. She eased her foot on the brake. In the next lane, a man leaned forward, fastening his seatbelt. His hair was streaked with gray, his face calm but worn. Jasper Cole, a factory worker heading home with a bag of hot takeout he'd just picked up from his favorite diner. Helena glanced over, and immediately noticed something odd. The bag of food was still sitting precariously on the roof of his car. The moment he started driving, it would fall and spill across the street. She chuckled softly, shook her head, and tapped her fingers on the steering wheel to get his attention. But Jasper didn't notice. Quickly, she rolled down her window and leaned toward him, her voice urgent but friendly. "Sir, your food. It's on the roof." Jasper looked up, startled. Helena pointed toward the car roof, nodding with a warm smile. He froze for half a second, then burst out laughing in realization. With a grateful grin, he stepped out, grabbed the bag, just as the light turned green. Helena couldn't help but laugh quietly. For a few brief seconds, two strangers exchanged a smile, and the world seemed to glow a little brighter. Carl Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Helena didn't know that quote, but she felt its truth in that fleeting moment. When kindness is given, even as simple as a gesture, and it changes not only the receiver but also the giver. A quiet joy spread through her chest. It wasn't pride or satisfaction, but the deep peace of continuing something invisible. The same current of goodness that had begun earlier when a stranger had paid her parking fee. And meanwhile, Jasper was still smiling as he drove past the intersection. He looked at the takeout bag now resting safely on the passenger seat and chuckled. "That could have been a disaster," he murmured. The smell of hot soup filled the car, warm and comforting in the cool evening air. A strange sense of gratitude welled up in him. Gratitude for the woman at the light, whose name he didn't even know. Perhaps, he thought, the world wasn't as cold as it sometimes seemed. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Carl Jung. A small wave, a smile, a moment, simple, yet filled with meaning. And that was enough to remind him that people are never truly alone. Sometimes they just forget to look. Helena drove on, the autumn wind brushing against her face. Her heart was calm. Amid the rush of cars, she didn't know that behind her the man she'd helped was still thinking about her. About that smile, that nod, that small but timely act of grace. It had lasted only seconds, yet those seconds made both of them smile at life. A quiet harmony, a small but profound synchronicity. As she turned onto the avenue, the last sunlight slipped behind the city buildings. Helena saw the trees along the street shedding their leaves like rain, spinning golden circles in the wind. She spoke softly to herself, her voice calm and tender, as though speaking to her own soul. Maybe kindness is just energy changing shape. And she believed it, because all day she had witnessed kindness taking many forms. A neighbor helping another, a stranger dropping coins into a meter, a small signal at an intersection. Each one different, yet all connected. Silent, steady, alive, like heartbeats synchronizing among souls, remembering something ancient and sacred. At home, Jasper unpacked his food, the steam rising into the air. He remembered a line he once read in a book. The sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. And today, the woman at the intersection had done exactly that. A small light, but bright enough to dissolve the weariness of the day. He sat quietly for a moment, then smiled. Tomorrow, he thought, I'll do the same for someone else, even if it's just holding the door open or letting another car merge first at a crowded junction. And somewhere down another street, Helena was thinking the same thing. Without knowing it, the two strangers shared one understanding. Every act of kindness is a form of awakening. Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." Perhaps kindness is the shortest path from dreaming to awakening, for in helping another, we glimpse the light within ourselves. And so, amid the stream of headlights under the evening sky, Helena smiled. She didn't know that behind her, the man she'd helped was smiling too. Two people, two lives, two trajectories, crossing for only a moment. Yet that moment, like a seed of light, began to bloom in both their souls. The autumn wind kept blowing. The city kept moving. And somewhere, between the hum of engines and the rhythm of human breath, another circle of kindness quietly began again. 10. Jasper, the misdelivered letter. That evening, after the heartwarming moment at the intersection, Jasper, Cole drove slowly back to his small apartment complex on the edge of the city. The autumn wind drifted through the cracked window, carrying the scent of damp leaves, wood smoke, and the gentle chill of nightfall. He felt more peaceful than he had in a long time. Before, whenever he returned home, all he felt was exhaustion and emptiness. His apartment, 1B, though tidy, was so quiet that he could hear the clock ticking, the pipes groaning in the walls, and the faint whisper of wind slipping through the window pane. But tonight, something was different. The whole world seemed a little brighter, a little lighter, as if that small act of kindness at the intersection had changed not only his evening, but the rhythm of his soul. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Carl Jung. A wave, a smile. So small yet filled with meaning. Jasper could still picture the warm smile of the woman in the car beside him. It made him believe that perhaps the world was gentler than he had thought. The building he lived in was nothing special. The walls were faded yellow, the air smelled faintly of damp wood, and the fluorescent lights buzzed and flickered when the hallway was empty. But in that worn-down space was a particular kind of peace, the kind only solitude teaches you to love. Jasper stopped at the row of mailboxes on the ground floor. He opened his own, 1B, and pulled out a few flyers, a bank envelope, and another letter. The envelope was cream-colored, with elegant slanted handwriting, to Clara Nguyen, apartment 3A. He frowned, reading it again. The mailman must have made a mistake. The letter was small, light, but it seemed to radiate a quiet intimacy, a still warmth. Jasper almost placed it on the manager's desk like he usually would, but then he stopped. In that moment, a small voice within him whispered, "Take it to her yourself." Clara Nguyen. He had seen her name many times on the third-floor mailbox. Sometimes they ran into each other in the elevator. She was a quiet woman, always greeting him with a faint, kind smile, a smile that felt strangely familiar, as if from a memory he couldn't quite place. Jasper tightened his grip on the envelope. The texture of the paper under his fingertips made him realize something. Perhaps these little moments, a misdelivered letter, the decision to return it by hand, were how the world created meaningful encounters. Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. Carl Jung. And in that quiet autumn night, Jasper believed this was no accident. He climbed the old wooden stairs. Each step creaked under his weight, echoing like the heartbeat of the building. The hall lights cast a soft golden glow. When he reached the third floor, he stopped, before apartment 3A. The door was closed, but through the crack he could hear faint piano music, light, and breathing like a sigh. He knocked 3 times. After a short pause, the door opened. Clara stood there, her hair tied loosely, her eyes reflecting surprise mixed with warmth. The light from inside touched her face, softening everything around them. Jasper hesitated, then held out the letter. "This was in my mailbox. I think it was misplaced." She looked at the envelope, then back at him, smiling. "Oh, thank you so much. You didn't have to bring it up yourself." He smiled gently. "It was on my way anyway." A brief exchange, only a few words, but the air seemed to warm around them. Clara held the letter with both hands, as if afraid it might vanish. In her eyes, Jasper saw something he had long forgotten: the simple, unguarded gratitude of being seen. Carl Jung once wrote, "The meeting of 2 personalities is like the contact of 2 chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." That moment, fleeting as it was exactly such a reaction. 2 strangers, one delivering a letter, one receiving, both transformed, even if only slightly. Clara felt the world was still good enough to trust. Jasper felt his heart soften, as if he'd brushed against the meaning of being alive. After Clara closed the door, Jasper lingered for a moment in the hallway, watching the light spill softly from under her door. He heard the sound of her kettle turning on, the music shifting keys. And in that instant, he smiled. It wasn't a polite smile, but one that rose from a quiet peace inside him. He thought of the lonely days behind him, the solitary dinners, the mornings with no one to speak to, the nights watching the city lights and feeling nothing. And suddenly, through one small action, one simple letter, life seemed to hold meaning again. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. Perhaps this was the privilege Jung meant, to become human again, to feel, to give, to touch another life. As Jasper descended the stairs, the building seemed warmer. The lights were still the same soft yellow, but no longer weary. The wind's whistle through the doorframe now sounded almost like a lullaby. He realized that life didn't need grand gestures, only small acts done with sincerity. He entered his apartment, set down his takeout, and sat by the window. The city lights flickered outside. He brewed a cup of tea. Steam rose, carrying the scent of cinnamon leaves. On the table, his small wooden mailbox sat in the corner, like it was smiling at him. The starting point of tonight's strange encounter. Jasper gazed out and thought, maybe nothing is truly misplaced after all. Yes, nothing is random. That letter wasn't delivered wrong to cause inconvenience, but to open a moment of humanity, where 2 strangers rediscovered themselves through the simplest act of care. The wind moved softly, spreading the scent of tea through the room. Jasper leaned back, closed his eyes, and let his thoughts fade into silence. Somewhere in the same building, Clara was probably sitting by her window reading the letter, and he imagined perhaps she was smiling too. A lost letter, a small synchronicity in the invisible current of kindness. And through it, Jasper realized, life is not meaningless. We simply need to stay awake enough to notice the quiet signs the universe sends our way. We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. Carl Jung. That night, as the city drifted into sleep, Jasper smiled in the golden glow of his lamp. And upstairs, Clara smiled too, neither knowing that, in that shared moment, the circle of kindness had quietly closed, only to open again, beginning a new journey where even solitary souls could touch each other through the gentle light of a letter that had lost and found its way. 11. The circle closed as night fell over the old building like a soft woolen blanket, thin, warm, and tender. The dim yellow lights in the hallway reflected on the worn wooden steps, where Jasper Cole's quiet footsteps echoed faintly. In his hand, the small letter still carried a trace of warmth, as if it held within it its own heartbeat of time. When he reached apartment 3A, he stopped. Inside, the muted glow of a desk lamp spilled gently through the crack beneath the door. He knocked 3 times, light, like tapping on the door of a dream. The door opened. Clara Nguyen appeared, her gentle face bathed in amber light. The scent of cinnamon tea drifted out, mingling with the smell of paper and old wood. Seeing Jasper standing there, she looked surprised. Then that familiar smile slowly spread across her lips. He held out the letter, his voice calm and warm. "This was in my mailbox. I think it was misplaced." Clara took it, lifting her gaze toward him. In her eyes was a quiet depth, a wordless gratitude. She said softly, her voice like the night breeze, "You made my night." At that moment, all sound seemed to pause. The world narrowed to just 2 souls and 1 small letter. Jasper smiled, bowed slightly, like an artist closing the curtain on the final act of his day, and turned to leave. The door closed behind him, leaving Clara standing still, her heart full of an emotion she couldn't quite name. She looked at the letter in her hands, slanted handwriting, soft paper edges worn by travel. It wasn't merely a lost item. It was a symbol of connection, a living proof of what Carl Jung once called synchronicity. Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. Carl Gustav Jung. She smiled faintly. Perhaps nothing that happened today was accidental. Every small action, every gentle encounter had led her here, to this moment where kindness had gone full circle and quietly knocked on her own door. Downstairs, Jasper descended the staircase slowly. In his chest was a lightness, not joy exactly, but peace. His heart brimmed with a quiet sense of completion, as if something inside him had just found closure. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Carl Jung. Just 1 letter, 1 smile, 1 word of thanks. Yet these small things carried an extraordinary power, the power to make a person feel they belong in the world, even for a fleeting moment. Clara gently closed the door and sat by the window. Outside, the autumn night had deepened, silent, cool, fragrant with wood smoke from nearby homes. She placed the letter on the table, her hand still holding the warmth of the neighbor who had delivered it. In the lamplight, she read line by line. The words were simple, but as she read, something stirred in her heart. The quiet feeling of an invisible thread connecting lives. She thought of everything she had done that day, helping Eva, smiling at Arthur, thanking Leo, and realized they were all woven together, forming an unseen tapestry of kindness. In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. C.G. Jung. Clara understood that beneath the surface of a seemingly chaotic world, there existed a secret harmony, a silent current of goodwill linking human souls to one another. Downstairs, Jasper opened the door to apartment 1B. The small room was warm and still. He brewed a cup of tea, sat beside the window, and looked up. The light in 3A was still on. He imagined the young woman reading the letter, perhaps smiling, a smile soft as wind. In Jasper's chest bloomed a rare feeling, the sense of being seen and belonging. He realized that kindness is not an act with an end, but a flow, a circle that closes only to begin again, deeper, wider, in new forms. What you do unto others, you do unto yourself. Carl Jung. And indeed, when he had carried the letter to Clara, he was also delivering a message to himself, that the world was still trustworthy, still warm, still made for those who wish to live kindly. On the third floor, Clara leaned her head against the window pane, gazing at the distant stars scattered across the night sky. A gentle breeze drifted through, carrying the scent of autumn, of fallen leaves and morning dew. She thought of the neighbor who had just left, his calm smile and steady steps, and she whispered to herself. Tomorrow, she would bring him a small gift, perhaps a loaf of pumpkin bread, fragrant and soft, or a tiny potted plant to sit by his window, not because she owed him anything, but because she wanted to continue that flow, to keep it alive. Kindness, she thought, is like the wind, unseen, yet felt by everyone it touches. Below, Jasper still sat watching the golden light from above. He sipped his tea, exhaled softly, and smiled. Everything felt perfectly still. He could feel the gentle close of a day well lived, one that needed no achievements, no praise, only the quiet peace of a full heart. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. Perhaps that is life's greatest gift, to live as oneself, simple, kind, sincere. Inside that small building, the night deepened, yet something remained quietly alight. A lamp in Clara's mind, a glow in Jasper's heart. And between them, the circle of kindness had closed, only to open again. Tomorrow someone else might receive a smile, a helping hand, a small gift. No one would know, and no one needed to. For kindness, once set in motion, always finds its way back, like fallen leaves that return to the earth to nourish the trees. We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. Carl Jung. That night, Clara and Jasper, two souls who once seemed strangers, met as two parts of the same spirit returning to its center. And as both drifted into sleep, the circle closed in silence, shimmering like moonlight upon rooftops. Because kindness, once awakened, never truly ends. It simply continues, quietly passing from one hand to another, from one heart to the next, until the world becomes gentle enough to heal itself. 12. Epilogue. The gentle dream night had fallen over the small town. The streets lay beneath a thin veil of mist, silent under the early autumn moon. In apartment 3A, the soft glow of a desk lamp lingered. Clara Nguyen sat by the window, her fingers gently tracing the creases of the letter Jasper Cole had brought her earlier that evening. The paper was slightly wrinkled, the envelope's edges faintly worn, the scent of old ink mingling with the cinnamon tea beside her. Everything seemed so ordinary, almost meaningless, and yet, in that quiet moment, everything felt deeply significant in ways she could not explain. She reread the final line of the letter, her eyes curving into a faint smile. Her heart was still as a lake. Something within the day had completed itself, like a door closing softly in its frame, leaving no sound, only a sense of wholeness and warmth. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Carl Gustav Jung. A misplaced letter, a hand that delivered it, a quiet phrase, "You made my night." Each was so small, yet within their smallness, the most precious thing was revealed, meaning. Clara stood up slowly. The tea in her cup had grown cold, yet its fragrance still lingered in the air. Through the window, she could see the light from the apartment below, 1B, still shining. Perhaps Jasper was awake too. Perhaps he was sitting by his window as well, feeling the stillness of the night and the echo of a day filled with kindness. She whispered to herself, barely above a breath, as if afraid to disturb the silence. Tomorrow, I'll bring him a pumpkin loaf. She paused, her eyes softening. Or maybe a small potted plant. Yes, that feels right. She imagined Jasper opening his door, finding the gift waiting on his doorstep, smiling in quiet understanding that kindness had found its way back to him. The thought warmed her chest. Downstairs, Jasper truly was sitting by his window, watching the faint light dance across the walls, the gentle steam rising from his tea. He didn't know that somewhere above, a woman was thinking of him with gratitude. Yet in his heart, there was a certainty that something in the world had fallen perfectly into place. Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. Carl Gustav Jung. There are no random coincidences. Every action, every meeting is an unseen thread in the tapestry of kindness, where even strangers find each other through gestures that might seem meaningless. Clara turned off the lamp. Moonlight poured through the curtain, casting a silvery glow across her blanket. She lay down, her breath slowing, the world outside dissolving softly into stillness. In that moment, she no longer knew where reality ended and dreaming began. Who looks outside? Dreams. Who looks inside? Awakes. Carl Gustav Jung. And tonight, Clara was both dreaming and awake. In her dream, she walked down Maple Street, the ground covered in golden leaves. The sky was clear, and everyone she met smiled. Eva stood at the post office, letting an elder go ahead in line. Arthur left the cafe with a pastry in hand for Leo. Leo, with his dog Scotty, stopped to help a young mother pick up something she'd dropped. Sophie laughed brightly as she slipped a few coins into a parking meter. Helena signaled kindly to a man at an intersection, and Jasper once again carried a small letter to someone's door. In Clara's dream, the entire town became a circle of compassion, where every small act sent ripples outward, only to return gently to its source. High above, in her dream sky, Clara saw a vast circle of light slowly turning. Within each glowing ring was a familiar face: Eva, Arthur, Leo, Sophie, Helena, Jasper, and her own. Each was connected by fine silver threads that shimmered like strands of spirit. The self is a circle whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. C.G. Jung, Collected Works, Volume 9. It was the self, the sacred center in Jung's teaching, where all souls merge into one through love and kindness. Clara realized that kindness is not something given or received. It is the natural rhythm of existence, like breath, like light, like the hidden current beneath the universe itself. In that dream, the town began to glow, not with moonlight or lamps, but from within, from every human being shining softly from the inside out. The light. Jung called the inner light, kindled when one touches the truth of who they are. The sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. C.G. Young Clara smiled in her sleep. She saw the lights merge and flow like a sea of radiance. From her window, she saw herself, another version of her, sitting, reading the same letter, with a cup of tea in hand. All versions of herself, of Eva, of Jasper, blending together, like drops of water returning to the ocean. Then came dawn. The dream dissolved, but its warmth remained. Clara opened her eyes. Morning sunlight streamed through the curtains, painting her room gold. She stretched, took a deep breath. Inside there was no rush, no noise, only a clear, still peace. She walked to the window and opened it wide. The cool air brushed her skin. Down below, Jasper stepped into the hallway, holding his tea, his face calm. He looked up. Their eyes met. They smiled. No word spoken because the circle of kindness had already completed itself. Clara poured another cup of tea, placed the letter back on the table, and began to prepare pumpkin batter. Outside, the sun climbed higher. She felt, in some gentle way, that the town itself would be different today. Maybe Eva would help someone carry their groceries. Maybe Arthur would give away a second cup of coffee to a passerby. Maybe Helena would stop at an intersection and smile at a stranger. Maybe Jasper would find another misplaced letter waiting for him, and perhaps someone, somewhere, would begin a new chain of kindness, because compassion, once awakened, never truly falls back asleep. In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. Carl Jung. The world remains noisy. There will still be sad days and lonely nights. But beneath it all lies the secret order Jung spoke of, the quiet architecture of the human heart, where gentle light continues to flow, keeping the world from ever falling fully into darkness. And so, in her small apartment, Clara smiled. She didn't know exactly why she felt so happy, only that at last she understood. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, is the universe's reply. Outside, golden leaves drifted slowly down the street. A new day began, and somewhere, someone was about to do something kind, simply because they felt it was the right thing to do. The circle of kindness kept turning, and in that turning, the world became, if only slightly, a little more humane, a little more whole.